Prairie Yard and Garden is a production of the University of Minnesota Morris in cooperation with Pioneer Public Television. Funding for Prairie Yard and Garden is provided in part by Heartland Motor Company, providing service for over 30 years in the heart of truck country. Heartland Motor Company, we have your best interest at heart. Farmers Mutual Telephone Company and Federated Telephone Cooperative, proud to be powering ASERA. Mark and Margaret Yakel Julien, in honor of Shalom Hill Farm, a nonprofit rural education retreat center in a beautiful prairie setting near Windham in southwestern Minnesota. Shalom Hill Farm, shalomhill.org. Diamond Willow Advanced Care Assisted Living, providing custom homes with smaller settings designed especially for high care needs.
There are many of us that love to garden or love plants. Often we have a plant location that I refer to as our problem child. It just seems to be a hard spot to grow a plant. We tend to get discouraged when we plant something there and it just doesn't do well. I'm Mary Holm, host of Prairie Yard and Garden, and today we are going to explore special plants for special places to take care of those problem child locations. Many years ago, I was in charge of planting flowers along the sides of our church. The east side was a piece of cake, but the west side was a problem child location. It was a white church with a cement foundation, so very hot, dry, and windy too. I sure could have used our guest today, Lisa Grinberg from Creekside Greenhouses, to give me ideas for special plants for this special location. Welcome, Lisa.
Hi.
Tell me, Lisa, what is your background or how did you get started in plants?
So it all kind of started when I was back in high school. I had to help my parents re-landscape our farmstead and kind of just freshen it up, and I absolutely fell in love with it. I went to NDSU for horticulture as my major, and then my first actual job was working at a greenhouse in Fargo while I was in college.
How did you end up at Creekside Greenhouses?
Well, it was always a dream to kind of run my own business, and I didn't really know if that was going to be greenhouses or landscaping. One winter, my mom kind of found this place, and she said, "Is this something you want to do?" And I was like, "Absolutely." And so we figured out how we were going to do it, and we bought the place. So I've been here for 2 years.
I would imagine that you have a lot of customers that come in and have the same kind of question that I have, is like, what can I grow in certain locations? Which areas do you get the most questions about?
It really varies. We get some east side problems, west side problems, north side problems, and then just problems in the middle of the yard. And so it's really not one area in particular that I get the most questions on. It's all areas.
Do you have suggestions as far as annuals that you like to recommend for a sunny location?
So for a sunny location, I really plant anything as long as they can take full sun. Yes, some plants will wilt because it's just too dry or too hot, but plants will also wilt just because it's the heat of the day. So wilting is just kind of something I get used to. So one of my favorites would be fanflower or scaevola. I also like lantana, verbena, geraniums. I also plant a lot of petunias.
There are probably a lot of people that are not familiar with the scaevola or the fanflower. Can
Yes.
you talk about this a little bit more?
So the fanflower gets its name because the flower is shaped like a fan that you would use. It grows upright and out. It doesn't mound or doesn't trail, but the flowers are on all the time. They don't blow off in the wind, they don't get wind damage, and they can take the heat. Another thing that they can do is they can take drought. After a few days of real dryness, they will start to wilt a little bit, but they come back with a vengeance.
I know that you mentioned, sometimes verbena is another good one too, and bocapa is another one. Now, some of those will tend to drop their blooms if they dry out.
Yes.
Will they rebloom again after you water them?
Yeah, they'll always rebloom. Sometimes they need a little haircut to just kind of reinvigorate them, because if they lose too many blossoms at one time, they kind of get stunted a little bit. So you just give them a nice trim and they'll come back. They'll rebloom and they'll look beautiful.
Well, that's not such a bad idea anyhow to help keep your baskets nice all summer, isn't it? Is to give them an occasional haircut.
Yep, I usually give my baskets about 2 to 3 haircuts a year, just to reinvigorate the growth and the blooming, and just to make sure the shape is uniform.
If you have a hot, sunny location, is there something that you would recommend to help keep them from drying out as much?
There's a product called Soil Moist out there, and it's kind of this gel-like rock. It puffs up and it holds moisture, and then once the plant needs moisture, it'll release that and it'll shrink down to size, but once it gets water again, it'll hold that water so the plant can have it over a longer period of time.
Do you recommend watering quite often in the warm, sunny part?
The sunny parts of the day, I would avoid watering and try and water before it gets sunny, because if water sits on the leaves of the plants in the heat of the sun, it can burn, and then you got all these brown leaves. So I try and water morning or evening and try and get water in there before. With the heat and the sun, you always need to put water in your basket, especially if it's windy too.
If you're watering that often, should you be fertilizing quite often then too?
I would cut back on my fertilizer a little bit. In the spring, you can fertilize every time you water, but the heat of the summer, you want to try and avoid fertilizer, because it will start to burn if it's not used up readily. If it stays in the plant too long, it will start to burn just like water on the leaves.
Would it be okay with you if we go and take a look at some of your other plantings and planting combinations so people can get a good idea of things you've used and what you would recommend?
Absolutely. So this is one of the good planters that I've done up for sun that can take a sunny location. We got some fanflower in here. There's some bidens that bloom all season long. They can take the heat and the sun. And there's Gara here, which is a butterfly flower. It gets a little wind whipped in the wind, but it can take the sun, it can take the heat, and it can take the dryness. And there's also sweet potato vine in here, which will get a little wind whipped in the wind, but it can take the sun, the heat, all of that, and it looks beautiful. And there's also lantana hidden in here that is gorgeous. I love lantana. It has a nice fragrance to it, can take the heat, take the sun, take the wind.
And a lot of the flowers that you've used in this, the butterflies love these plants.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. The butterflies just swarm here in the morning.
I really like bidens, but what I find is they seem to bloom better if I deadhead them.
Yes, bidens is one that you want to constantly deadhead. It just reinvigorates the plant to bloom more. If you don't deadhead, you'll probably go a period of time where there's no flowers on it, just because it's got to start all over again. Whereas if you deadhead, you're speeding up that process.
And I also find that the sweet potato vine is very vigorous. I've had that over the side of a retaining wall, and it's just been gorgeous.
Yeah, it can get like 3 feet long and wide if conditions are perfect. These got wind whipped pretty bad this spring when we first started, like early May, right around Mother's Day. And I just kind of clipped them back, and they're coming back in full force.
And these are out in full sun and in the wind here.
Oh yes, yep, they're out 24/7.
So what are the plants that you've used in the next planter?
So this is Bacopa, and this will bloom constantly all summer long. It will benefit from a haircut every once in a while, but not necessary. It likes a lot of water too, I've noticed. It can take dryness, but it will start to wilt after time. There's also salvia up here with the bumblebee. Salvia is a good one because it will wilt when it needs water, but it perks back up in less than an hour, and it blooms all summer long. And then I filled in with different types of petunias, and these are all regular petunias, so they will require some deadheading over the course of the summer.
Now here's one that would be so pretty. It's so showy with those beautiful red petunias in it.
Yes. There's also Dusty Miller in here, it doesn't flower, but it's got good silver foliage, and that'll take the heat, the sun, the wind. There's really no killing Dusty Miller.
I noticed that you have some alyssum here in this basket too.
Yes, alyssum's a good white filler. It kind of trails down. It has a really good scent to it. It smells fantastic. And it can take the heat, it can take the wind, it can take the sun, and it will just need to be deadheaded once in a while. I found that if you don't do it, it kind of just tuckers out after a while. So a good clip and it's good to go.
Now, wouldn't this be a beautiful planter for the cemetery for Memorial Day?
Yes. There's wave petunias and spikes in here. And the wave petunias, they are something else. They cover a large area of ground or a large area in the container, and they bloom all summer.
Now, some of the waves used to be that they would be foliage in the middle of the plant and then the blooms would all be around the edge, but these are beautiful.
The way to avoid getting that kind of flowerless center is deadheading and pinching back. You can kind of tell when your flowers start to kind of fade and you start losing kind of that bright color. At that point, I give them a good haircut. I don't just deadhead, I give them a good haircut. And then they come back full force. You don't get that dead center where it's just the foliage.
Well, that is just a beautiful, beautiful planter. You've done a really nice job with putting the colors together. And then the spikes, there's not much that kills a spike either.
No, absolutely not. And it's one of those old standbys. Like there's always been a geranium, a spike, and a alyssum container for all of time. But the spike hasn't lost its draw because you can't kill it. It can take everything.
Well, geraniums are still a good plant too for a lot of sun too.
Oh, absolutely. Geraniums are those flowers that you just can't go wrong with. They can take the heat, they can take the sun, they can take the wind. And they have big flower heads, so they're very showy.
You've given us so many great ideas for plants for sun and wind. How about the shade? Would you show us some for the shade too?
Oh, absolutely. So Mary, this is kind of our shade greenhouse. This is where I grow everything that can tolerate up to full shade. A few of the plants I want to touch base on are coleus. So there are sun coleus and there are shade coleus, and there are some that can do both. So this is a Kong mosaic coleus, and this one can tolerate full shade, and it gets large. Some of these leaves can get as large as a human face.
Wow, what a centerpiece this plant could be.
Yeah, they're absolutely gorgeous, and there's different colors that you can get with the leaves. Like there's a rose and a red one and a lime green one. There's also a junior Kong series, which doesn't get quite as big. So there are a lot of options.
What a beautiful plant. How do you know the difference between a sun coleus and a shade coleus, or do you have to read the tag or just ask somebody like you?
It's best to ask. Tags can give you a lot of information, and they can also be very vague. So most of the tags for coleus will say sun or shade, but some like more shade, some like more sun. So it's best to ask someone working in the greenhouse just to verify that the one you want is perfect for the location. And then we go to this little guy here. This is the under the sea coleus. This is a sea monkey. This is about full grown. It can get like another couple inches, but we haven't seen it grow much.
What a pretty little addition in a corner or in the front.
Perfect for like fairy gardens if you're doing something like that, or miniature gardening. And then one of my favorite shade plants are begonias. So there are 3 different types of begonias here. I have a nonstop upright begonia, and so this one gets about 10 inches tall, but lots of color, huge flower blossoms, and they flower all summer. Full shade, dry. They like to be dry, and they can tolerate the wind. And so I got the red and then the yellow one here too. Like, look at that.
Okay, beautiful flower.
Yeah. And then there's the Himalaya series. So I have a pink one and a yellow one here. These look identical to the nonstops, except the flowers are just a little bit more elegant. But they also like to be dry. They can take the wind, and they'll also get to be about 10 to 12 inches.
What happens if they get too much water?
Too much water, they kind of just stop growing.
Okay.
They'll still flower, not as much, but they'll still produce a flower. They just won't get any bigger in size.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the third one here is a trailing begonia.
Oh.
So this can't tolerate the wind nearly as much, but you can see the flowers just kind of hang down, so they're really good in hanging baskets.
I bet you if you have a planter in a sheltered spot up by the house, where it's out of the wind, this would be a beautiful plant to use.
Oh, absolutely. Yep.
Mm.
Another one that I really like is Torrenia. So this is also called a wishbone flower because it looks like in the flower you can kind of see it looks like a wishbone in there. This is a good trailer, so it'll trail down the side of a pot, and it can take full sun to full shade. I prefer it in the shade because it doesn't seem to get as dried out in the shade because it doesn't like to be dry.
Okay.
But it can tolerate the wind also. And then New Guinea impatiens are always a good choice. So we got pink ones, red ones, there's white, purple, orange, but these are beautiful. These can't tolerate the wind very well, but they like to be very dry and they can tolerate the heat.
Some years ago, there were some disease issues that have come out with impatiens. Are these susceptible to that?
No, this is a different genus, so it's not affected by the downy mildew.
Oh, okay.
And a good rule of thumb is if you're worried about the downy mildew and impatiens, just plant them in different spots of your yard year after year. Don't plant them in the same soil in the same spot because it can overwinter.
These I would guess would be beautiful both planted in the ground and in a planter or hanging basket.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yep, and they flower all summer. This guy right here, this is a Plectranthus. So this is Mona Lavender, and she is gorgeous. She can take full sun, full shade, and tolerate the wind. She likes to be a little bit more wet than dry, but one of the reasons I like her so much is the underside of the leaf is purple along with the flowers. So it's a good purple.
Plectranthus is the family name of like a Swedish ivy, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Wow, so this is a cousin.
Mm-hmm. Yep, this is a tall, upright cousin.
And those are tough as nails.
Oh, absolutely. I have been planting these in my shade yard for the last 6 or 7 years, and they're the last one standing.
Wow. And just with the look of the flowers, I would think that maybe hummingbirds and some of the pollinators would love this flower.
Absolutely, hummingbirds especially.
Mm.
And then there's also ferns. Now, ferns are one that people don't think of a lot for shade. So this one is an annual maidenhair fern, and so it doesn't flower, and it likes to be wet, very wet. But it can take some wind, can't take a lot of wind. Mm-hmm. And what it is, it's just delicate foliage. Mm-hmm. And when I say delicate, I don't mean it's not tough. It's tough, but it's just very elegant, very soft.
Mm-hmm. I actually have seen some people have used like a Boston fern or a fern type on a north side under an overhang, and it has looked beautiful outside.
And then this last guy here, this is bridal veil. And so tiny, delicate white flowers. The undersides of the leaves are purple again, just like the Mona Lavender. Good trailer, good in hanging baskets. It can take water, drought, heat, wind, you name it, it can handle it.
Sometimes we don't think about using ivies, and yet look, this is just beautiful.
Yeah, it's absolutely gorgeous. And most people just kind of walk right by it because it's like, oh, it doesn't have any flowers. It does flower. And when it does flower, it is beautiful. Like all these are just getting ready to open up.
Well, you've shown us a lot of great annuals for both the sun and in the shade. How about perennials?
Oh, there are a lot of perennials that you can do in sun or shade for different reasons, for color, for height, for smell. I have lots of options for you.
Can we go see your perennial house?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
I have a question. I'd like to grow peonies, but I know there are two different types. Could you tell me the difference?
Most of you are probably familiar with our typical herbaceous peonies, and those are the ones that are at your grandma's house, or if there's a farmstead that disappeared, that's probably one of the few plants that survives 20 years afterwards. It's very tough and loves our Minnesota climate. We also have what's called a tree peony. That would be a woody plant material peony like a shrub. And in our Chinese garden, the peony is very important because it's a symbolic plant, it's a symbol of wealth. And the tree peony has beautiful foliage, which I really enjoy. The peonies that we have in this garden is an Ito hybrid, or considered an intersectional hybrid. These peonies are bred between the herbaceous and the woody peonies. Mr. Ito bred them from Japan back in the 40s. And these peonies are very nice, one, because of their foliage, and two, they stand up and they don't fall over and collapse like quite a few of the other peonies do. And they also are pretty tough. These are probably the toughest of the tree peonies for our climate, are the intersectional or Ito hybrids. And they come in a lot of beautiful colors and sizes. So I appreciate them because after the peony bloom season's over, the foliage still stands on its own.
Ask the Arboretum Experts has been brought to you by the Minnesota Landscape Arboretum in Chanhassen, dedicated to enriching lives through the appreciation and knowledge of plants.
So we are in the perennial house right now, and a couple of things I want to touch base with for shade perennials. Hostas are the most common type of perennial out there for shade, but not necessarily my favorite. I still like hostas and I still have a ton of them, but there are some things that I want to touch base with. So this is a ligularia. This one gets 3 to 4 feet tall and it gets a yellow stem on it. This takes full shade, lots of water, can tolerate the heat, and there are different versions of this one. So this one's 3 to 4 feet. I have one that gets 5 to 7 feet tall, and then I also have one that's 3 to 4 feet tall but has daisy-like yellow flowers instead of a spear.
And so this one you're going to have to put where there's quite a bit of room.
Yes, yeah, they get quite large.
Okay.
But they are very, very showy when they are in bloom. Another one is lungwort right here. And this one is Mrs. Moon. So it gets purple and pink flowers, and they just come out not much taller than the foliage, but 12 inches high, 12 inches around, full shade, doesn't need that much water, can tolerate heat and wind.
This one I've heard referred to as the boy-girl plant because it has both the colors of the blue and the pink on it.
Another one is lamb's ear. So there's the silver one that everyone is kind of familiar with the soft leaves. There's now a new one here, this one right here with the purple. The leaves are green and they're not soft. They're kind of fuzzy, but not like the traditional lamb's ear. This can take a little bit more sun than the traditional lamb's ear, but it can also take full shade.
So lamb's ear, I always thought that should go into full sun.
It can take some shade, it just can't take full shade.
Oh, okay.
So this can take full sun to full shade.
Ah, so much more flexible.
Yes.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and it's a little bit more sturdy of a plant. When lamb's ear is in full bloom, it tends to kind of get a little floppy. This does not. So this is the Humlo. It's a great variety. I have 3 of these in my yard right now. Those are just a handful of the shade plants that I have. And then there are also some fun ones. So coneflowers. I think most people are familiar with coneflowers, but this is a new coneflower where it's called Cheyenne Spirit. And so it kind of changes color within the plant. So when they first open, they can be either yellow or orange, and then they kind of fade to a pink or kind of a coral color as the flowers are open longer.
Ah, so it even has variation in the flower color.
Yep.
Cool.
Yep. So you can have a couple different colors on a flower at one time. And then there's bee balm, which is great for butterflies and bees. Hummingbirds also really like it, but lots of good colors, and they're coming out now with varieties that are more powdery mildew resistant. They still might get it, but they're at least not getting it as often or as much.
This one, can this be quite aggressive? I mean, does this spread out?
It can. There are some varieties that are out there now that stay more compact. They don't spread and take over your garden nearly as much.
Oh, okay.
And then this one is a treasure. This is a fire poker. So you can treat this kind of like a succulent. It doesn't need a lot of water. It would be fantastic in rock garden situation where it doesn't get a lot of water, but it flowers, and it will flower a couple times in a year, but it just yellows and oranges.
It reminds me kind of a spike or a yarrow, but this comes with a flower too.
Yeah. Yellow waxells is one of my favorite plants. I had this in my yard 5 years before I could figure out what it actually was. Everyone kept telling me it was a weed, and I finally have found that it is not.
Okay.
It's yellow waxbells, but they bloom in the fall, and they bloom yellow, and they're almost kind of oval-shaped flowers that just kind of pop open. They're beautiful. Gets about 3 feet tall and wide, sun or shade.
So is this something that should be on a trellis or anything, or
Nope.
it's just fine?
Just fine by itself. Yep. It'll kind of be a little floppy until it gets to be full size, and then it's sturdy.
Okay. The leaves remind me almost of a hydrangea in a way.
Very similar. Yep. But not a lot of water. When it wants some water, it'll tell you. It'll start wilting, but other than that, you don't need to do a thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's my kind of perennial.
Yeah. And it blooms in the fall, which is, it's hard to find things that'll bloom late into the fall. And then this one is another favorite of mine. This is sea holly. So this is a true blue color. And it looks spiky, and it is, but they're not painful spiky, like you can touch them. These will all be opening up soon, and it'll just be this massive blue flowers.
Wow. Can this be dried?
Yes. And it doesn't need a lot of water. It can tolerate heat, sun, wind, you name it.
Lisa, thank you so much for letting us come and see your beautiful place and your beautiful plants.
Yes, thank you for coming.
Funding for Prairie Yard and Garden is provided in part by Heartland Motor Company, providing service for over 30 years in the heart of truck country. Heartland Motor Company, we have your best interest at heart. Farmers Mutual Telephone Company and Federated Telephone Cooperative, proud to be powering ASERA. Mark and Margaret Yakel Julien, in honor of Shalom Hill Farm, a nonprofit rural education retreat center in a beautiful prairie setting near Windham in southwestern Minnesota. Shalom Hill Farm, shalomhill.org. Diamond Willow Advanced Care Assisted Living, providing custom homes with smaller settings designed especially for high care needs.